In this video, I'm going to explain how many properties you need to be financially free. We're going to go over how much money you need, how long it'll take you, and most importantly, what's the fastest route to get there. So you only need to scroll on YouTube or Instagram just for a few minutes and you'll probably notice someone somewhere talking about financial freedom. And I get why, because it's very aspirational, isn't it? It sounds like the perfect dream. But what does financial freedom actually mean? At its core, and this is my understanding of financial freedom, feel free to comment on what your definition is, but at its core, financial freedom is where your passive income is more than your living expenses and where you no longer have to exchange your time for money. So that's why we're going to be talking about passive income in this video as opposed to active income, because if you think about it, it's the passive income you generate that actually makes you financially free. And don't get me wrong, financial freedom, it doesn't have to mean that you're rich. It's far from it. All it means is that you have enough passive income from your investments and those assets can cover your living expenses. And it's not like once you become financially free you should like quit your job. That means that if God forbid something happened and you were unable to work for some time, your passive income would cover your living expenses. You now have choices because you're financially free, okay? And one last thing before we go any further, no matter what people say, guys, financial freedom isn't a get rich quick scheme. You'll understand what I mean when we start breaking it down by the numbers, but just understand that the reality is it's a gradual process. It needs discipline, planning, and a commitment to your long-term goals. When you start chasing the shiny pennies, as I call it, or if you want shortcuts or you're looking for a quick fix, then you're going to be disappointed. You should be doing this for the long term.
We'll get back to the video in a few seconds, but 70% of you watching this video aren't subscribed to my channel. Please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and buy more properties in the next few months. I'll be sharing everything so you can learn from my mistakes for free. Anyways, back to the video.
So to figure out how many properties you need, we first need to work out your living expenses. Now, just to keep things simple, I'm going to be using the average figures from the Office for National Statistics, the ONS data. So the average UK salary stands at £30,000 annually. It's a bit more, but just for easy maths, it roughly translates to £2,000 a month after tax and national insurance. When you're working out your figure, you'll obviously need to use your salary, but just for this video, we're going to use the UK average figure. And based on that salary, it's estimated that your monthly living expenses, which include your mortgage or rent, transport, food costs, utilities and everything else, are £1,800. If we assume a profit of £250 per month from each buy-to-let property, which is realistic, that's the sort of figure I get, the formula to work out how many properties you need is going to be the number of property needed equals monthly living expenses divided by 250, which is 1,800 divided by 250, 7.2. So in this scenario, you would need 7.2 properties. You can't exactly buy a 0.2 of properties, so it needs to go to the next figure, which is 8. So based on those figures, you would need 8 properties to be financial free, 8 buy-to-let properties. The reason why I've used buy-to-let as an example is because they're the most predictable investment type. Yes, you can make more money with HMOs and service accommodations, of course you can. I have both of them and they definitely make more than £250 a month. So you'd be able to get to that financial freedom a lot quicker, but just for the sake of this video, I'm going to go with the most simplest form of property investment. Now, depending on your situation, some of you are probably thinking, oh, 8 properties, that's not too bad. Or some of you are thinking, 8 properties, no way, I can never do that. But in the next few minutes, we're going to work out how much money you need to give you more context, okay? And then you'll have a better idea of how realistic that financial freedom figure is for you. Moving beyond the theoretical calculations, let's now get practical and work out how much money you would need to become financial free, because ultimately it boils down to how much money you have. The average property in the UK is subject to fluctuations, and the latest figure I could find from the gov.uk website was £288,000. Typically, you need to put down a 25% deposit of that £288,000, which works out to £72,000. £72,000 times times by the 8 houses you need, that's £576,000. So you need over £500,000 to become financially free from property. I know, madness. I told you it wasn't gonna be easy. But let's be honest, if you watch some of my videos, whether it's on YouTube over here, on Instagram or TikTok, then you'll probably know that buying properties the old boring way of saving up 25% deposits is not the one. It's not the best way to invest in property. But if you use the BRRR method, which is short for buy, refurbish, rent and refinance strategy, that involves purchasing distressed properties, renovating them to add value, rent them out, and then refinance at a higher valuation because you've now forced appreciation, you could get to that financial freedom much quicker, a lot quicker. Now, let's just assume, right, that you wanted to buy the same £288,000 property, but this time it's in poor condition and it needs to be refurbed and you need to turn it around, right? Because the condition of the property is poor, you could probably get it at a discount, right? About £225,000. And in order to fix the property up, refurb it, you're going to need £25,000 on top. So using a 25% deposit of £225k, that works out to £56,250. I know there's going to be other costs like your 5% stamp duty now, legal fees, broker fees, but just to keep things simple, for easy maths, with the 25% deposit and the £25,000 refurb, add it all together, all in, you need £81,250, which is a lot of money. But this is where things get interesting. Because you've done a good job on the refurb, the property is up to scratch again. The house is now worth £288,000, the same as the other property, because now they're both condition, both properties are the same. But because you're doing a BRR strategy, you're now going to refinance it on a 75% loan to value, which would mean that would work out to £216,000. That's what the banks will transfer to your bank account, £216,000. So just remember that figure. And with that £200,000, you pay back the old loan, deduct your initial costs, and you're leaving around £31,000 of your money left in the deal. So technically, it means after refinancing, instead of the £72,000 that you needed before with the old boring way of investing, with BRR, you now need less than half of that, because technically you only leave in £31,000 into that property. So those 8 houses that we talked about earlier on at 31k a pop equals £248,000. I know 248k isn't exactly a small amount, but it's a lot more achievable than the £576,000. And if you want to start breaking it down even further, if you're married or got a partner, that works out to like 120k each if you split it. So we know by now that the financial freedom for the average person on the average salary, average outgoings, average everything, need 8 houses, and those 8 houses using the BRR strategy would need 240k, right? We know that now. But how long will it take to achieve the financial freedom? Well, the thing is that we don't need the 240k all at once, right? Essentially, you'd need enough for your first property, which is £56,250 and £25,000, yeah? Your deposit and your refurb, so that's your £81,000. But then you need to top that pot of cash up to buy your next property and so on. That's how BRR works. To work out the time frame, you really need to consider how much you're able to save and what investment or money you had prior to that. If you're there saving and consciously putting money towards your financial freedom goal, I reckon between the two of you, you could manage to save up 31k in, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, 4 years. So as a rough estimate, I'd say based on everything we've talked about, it would take around 18 to 24 years. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, guys, so please listen. There's a few things to this, so let's talk about them. Number one, guys, that I told you this isn't a get rich quick scheme. It takes time. It's never easy, it takes time. Number two, it's still way earlier than when you'd retire, so you would have enough time to enjoy all the efforts and sacrifices you've put in this with a pension. I don't know whether that's true. And number three is whether you achieve financial freedom or not, that's not the point. The point is that if you actually put the work in and actually went ahead and took action, you would still be way better off than if you just didn't do nothing at all, if you just waited for your sole core pension. Now, talking about pensions, let's go over that as well, because I feel like most people, they're in this mindset that you have to work all your life, you have to grind away, and at the end of the career, you'll retire with a pension pot, which to be honest is all really. And the thing is, by the time you even get to the stage, the retirement age, it might even be 70 years plus. That's a long time to wait, right? Like, to me, it's like, why would you want to work so hard, spend all those hours and days sacrificing, only to reap the rewards when you're 70? When, let's be honest, you're not the most active, you're not going to be the most fittest, and probably not in the right frame of mind in some cases to even be able to enjoy your hard work. I don't know about you, but I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor now in the next few years, not when I'm 65 or 70. So that's why you work towards financial freedom, right? So that you have the option to retire or quit your job if you want to. But the thing to remember is that apart from rental income, which is what gives you the financial freedom, you are also able to build wealth over the time through appreciation of your properties. Assuming a conservative 5% annual increase in property prices, let's just look at how much potential capital appreciation you'd make over 10 and 20 years, not like when you're 70, okay? And again, if we go by the value of £288,000, the future property value after 10 years for that property with a 5% appreciation would be £474,000, and after 20 years it would be over £700,000, which is absolutely crazy and just goes to show the power of property over the long term. Think about it, that's just one house. Times that 781,000 with 8 properties after 20 years, you'd have a portfolio worth £6.2 million. And the craziest thing is, you would only have to put in £248,000 to reach that financial freedom figure, to reach that multi-million pound portfolio. And you've done that with an asset which is one of the most predictable, which has one of the best track records. Yes, it's not cryptocurrency. Yes, it's not AI. It's property. It's the safest and most reliable asset. You don't need to do anything clever. You don't need to be a genius. You just need to do it. Whether you become financially free or not is a different question, but hopefully you now understand why property is so powerful and why everyone should be investing in it. Anyways, I'm done for convincing today. I hope it's given some thought to some of you who are still like sitting on the sidelines. If you like this video and want to know how to get started with buy-to-lets, I'll pull up a video called Buy-to-Let Basics for Beginners, full guide, which will really help you. Go watch the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon.